around that, because I think what we want to make sure we incentivize developers and builders to build these things, but there has to be a demand for them. Making 800 square feet and less has got to be a single bedroom.
I have a fiveplex over on 13th that's right up the hill from Kickstand, and it's all one bedroom units, and they're rented all the time. So I think Greg's comment could be related to a purchase unit, a sale unit. And I think we kind of keep getting into mindset of we're building these for one or we're building these for the other, but certainly, and I asked the planning staff to send out a duplex that it got built by Joel Knutson that has, they're one bedroom units. He said he's renting them for 13 or 1400 a month, and they were like, as soon as he was done, had a list and could rent more of them.
One last comment. I agreed that one bedroom apartments are great. If you build a one bedroom house, I'm not sure that's so useful, right? And that's what Greg's comments were about, the demand for a one bedroom house.
The one component that I think is, and I think Heather highlighted this, but driving all over Portland, historically, you go into some of these old neighborhoods where they have 2,500 square foot, and we have them around town, or 4 square craftsman houses, and you go in and there's 2 units on the downstairs, you go upstairs, there's 2 units upstairs, and they fit in to those existing neighborhoods really well. So I'm a proponent that we somehow figure out how to do 4. That's my vote. Looks like a single family with 4 units in it. I think that's a valuable configuration type in particular zones. I don't know, go back to your comment, Mark, is that something we should be sticking in our R1 zone? We can have that debate, but certainly in R2 and R3, I think the 4s make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any argument why we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And as we said, when we look at some of these R1 neighborhoods, some of these houses that exist there are quite large. And I mean, walking by on the sidewalk, how would you know if those are broken up into a 3 unit or a 4 unit? I mean, it would look the same from the street. So I don't know that that's a distinction that we need to make for R1.
Right. What I call the clown house. I think that sold, what was that, like a 5? I think that was like a 5 or 6. Yeah, that thing could have been divided up into like 4 different units. It was huge.
One of the purposes of zoning is to maintain, some light and air and privacy in your backyard, and so if you bought a R1 house, you expect to have a house pushed to the front and some backyard. And then if we change the requirements here, and all of a sudden we have wall-to-wall housing, sort of deep into the lot, a lot of that goes away. In a smaller R2 neighborhood, some of the things I'm thinking about kind of up beyond in the area that Linda Maddox was just talking about, there's not much site left to build in the backyard. There's some setbacks. But thinking in R1 neighborhoods, there's a deeper lot. And if you ended up with, 2 houses going all the way to the back, what have we done in terms of take away that backyard? So, I mean, I sort of like the notion of, what could you tell from the front and from the street if it's one house or 2? That doesn't concern me as much, but if it sort of goes back deep into the lot, based on some of those diagrams that Dustin was showing, that's where I get a bit concerned.
Yeah, adding to the footprint, you're saying, rather than divvying up an existing.
Yeah, I see in the example of what Commissioner Irving was just talking about, in a Portland neighborhood, you take a big house and you divide it into 2 or 4. That doesn't sound too bad, but you don't go back into deep into the sort of the back of the lot where the trees are and where the grass is and where people have some privacy. So that's the bit that I'm concerned about.
Could I jump in and maybe I have one concept that may make this largely relevant or irrelevant, and it goes back to the concept that has been proposed a couple times, which is, should we be looking at this from a intensity of use floor area ratio versus the maximum unit area or whatever we're doing now. That, I mean, that
Yeah.
I think would address some of what you're saying, Mark. And in R1, we expect to have this amount of use.
Right. Well, and is there a risk of losing existing housing stock in favor of the middle housing? I mean, is there anything in the code about maintaining, I'm trying to think of the right words, but are people going to start tearing down houses left and right?
And yeah, I would say that tear down issue is real. I mean, that's a real Portland issue that I would be concerned about, that this does become a vehicle to lose some of the character and form. Or does it become somebody's vehicle to declare their neighborhood historic and prevent this from happening there? Because that's where you've seen in Laurelhurst and other neighborhoods.
I just think short-term rentals destroy communities so badly, and now we're trying to create, we're trying to create homes for people, and that is not what short-term rentals do. They don't create community or homes for people.
I think I go along with Tina in that the whole reason we're introducing this new code, this missing middle, is, I mean, right now people can buy short-term. I mean, they can, people can go and find a short-term rental type of situation, right, under the new rules. But if we're going to bring back this missing middle, to me, it feels kind of purposeful that is the goal here, and to sort of bring a whole bunch of houses, infill a bunch of neighborhoods, again, sort of in the idea of, there's a compromise that we're making, right, in terms of we're giving up some air and some light and some grass, and we're basically saying we can have density. And what we want out of it is the missing middle for the local workers to be able to work and walk to their place of employment downtown or wherever, right? That's the missing part of the missing middle. And if we create a whole bunch of short-term rentals, that didn't help what we're trying to do.